Hey guys, thanks a lot for clicking on this video. This video will be long, but it will be worth it because this is an interview of a Facebook engineer who was an IIM-A graduate, and before that, he was an IIT-B graduate. So you can understand the magnitude of this interview. Our guest today is Hemant Gangolia, and he will be sharing about his life journey, how he made professional decisions, how he took calculated risk, and what habits made him so successful. So let's get started with the interview. So hey guys, so today we have with us Hemant Gangolia, who is a software engineer at Facebook New York. Though he is an engineer at FANG company, but there is something more that is special about him. Within a span of 7 years, he has been an IITian, a software engineer at a startup, an IIM graduate, an investment banker, a consultant, a trader, a software engineer at an enterprise, and finally, a software engineer at a FANG company. So within a span of 7 years, he got the experience that many people cannot even get in their whole career. And that he achieved because he dared to experiment and he dared to think different. So let me hand it over to Hemant, and he will tell us about his inspiring and versatile professional journey. So, hey Hemant, how are you?
I'm doing good, Amit. Thank you. And first of all, thank you for the kind introduction. And I also want to thank all the participants here. Thank you for joining us. Um, and yeah, I'm really glad to be here to talk about my story.
Hey Hemant, we are more glad than you. Trust us. And I know I told a lot of things about you, but now for the starting, you have to tell us something that nobody knows about you. Tell us about your childhood or about your school days. Like, what shaped you?
I mean, to be honest, I went to a very humble school in Bombay, not any fancy school. It was a very local school. Um, and I think I would say I was a diligent student. I would, try to be among the top in the class generally. Uh, but I think like what really shaped me, I would say, is the discipline and the rigor. And I think the discipline is the most important part of any school. What I just did different probably was my parents were always, focused on like, and even myself that, you have to, get up on time, basic things in life. Just get up on time, go to school every day, do your homework every day, don't procrastinate. I think these basic things, I think probably shaped me up. And it really laid the foundation for, such a career, I would say. um nothing sparking out anything else, but I think, yeah, these simple things.
Okay, so you're saying that your basic little habits shaped you and made you what you are today.
Yeah.
So let me go even at a more childhood level. So when I was a child, I wanted to become a pilot because I found it very fancy. Uh,
Yeah.
and now we see that your career has panned out very well. But when you were a kid, what you wanted to become?
Yeah, so I wanted to be a doctor, because I think as a kid you are often visiting a doctor. You never visit an engineer or any a banker. You go to a doctor because you are sick also, and you feel that respect a doctor is getting, right? And you think, oh, I want to be someone like that, because he is respected, he is well knowledgeable. And I think that was my, at least that's what I wanted to become when I was a kid.
So when was the time when this idea changed? Like maybe I don't want to become a doctor now.
Yeah, I think it kind of shaped up when I was in the eighth or ninth standard. So what I started to realize is like I like math more than anything else, and being a doctor wouldn't make me closer to math, but probably an engineer would.
Hmm.
So that's why I was like probably you know uh, started moving towards becoming an engineer rather than becoming a doctor.
Okay, so needless to say that your favorite subject was mathematics.
Yes.
Uh, so moving on to your JEE preparation. So as you said, mathematics was your favorite subject. For me, it was chemistry. So that is why not that great results. But yeah, for you it was mathematics, and definitely with mathematics always physics is also strong.
Yeah.
So tell us about your JE preparation days. What was the vision in your mind? So just like when you were a kid and you wanted to become a doctor, you had a vision that
Yeah.
people get respect and all this. When you were preparing for JE, what was the vision in your mind?
Very similar, I would say, but I think it was more, kind of in a not with others, like what others think is respectable, that, or rather, I would think that I have done the best. So it was like the vision was generally to be the best version of myself. And I thought, like, at least in India, trying for JE would be, the best thing. Like everyone is doing, definitely, but you get to access, let's say, an IIT one day. So, try to just make the most of I can, for those 2 years. So that was my, vision. So let me try the best what I can do. Um, and that, I think that was the only goal. And definitely getting that prestige when if you get an IIT was, in my mind. But you don't know when you are, whether you will get it. Fortunately, I was, able to get it. But I think when I look back at when I was doing my preparation, the only idea was to just be the best, or at least what I can do.
Very nice, very nice. So very often we see that people who are like child prodigy who want to go into IIT, they also prepare for going into like abroad universities like Stanford,
Yeah.
MIT. So you also had similar plans, or you never thought about it?
No, no. I think I was like I was very from a middle class background. I never thought like I would actually go to a US school. I It's not that that I never thought I could get into, but I just didn't have that exposure, to be honest. Like I didn't know that people can actually go to a foreign university just after 12th standards. I thought like the only way to go through is just go through competitive exams in India. I think my mind was just sticking to India. Like I didn't know there was a world around outside, or at least I had that access to go out, I think.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was very I didn't know much about the other things.
Okay, so yeah, so finally you cracked IIT JEE and you got IIT Bombay. But what motivated you to opt for computer science? Because as you say that your interest was in mathematics, and in computer science there is mathematics, but it's more about discrete mathematics, not very core mathematics. So what actually motivated you to opt for computer science? Was it? Yeah, you tell us.
Yeah, I think it was because like math was the closest to CS I felt, and definitely computer science had the most. I felt like a most flexibility in the options you have after graduation. So that was my intention to take CS, um, and yeah, basically having more like rationality, or just like mathematics in the sense that brought me to just go for computer science.
Hmm. So, like the application of number theory and
Yes,
solving complex problems, that was very interesting to you, and that
yes,
would have actually helped you in, I think,
yeah.
your data structures and algorithm also.
Yeah, and I'm glad that I think that was one of the choices I really stand up to today. Even I really feel like CS is very home to me, and I'm glad to take that decision.
Nice. No, nobody told you that why are you taking computer science, take mechanical and things like this.
No, I think the world has quite changed. If you see, maybe not back then, 10 years ago, maybe life was different, but now we definitely see a growth in CS and the growth of tech in general.
Hmm.
So I felt that maybe mechanical was a great thing 20 years ago, but not really now. And what is gonna be the future is probably CS, or most closest to CS. So that's why.
So, yeah, that's great. So even though you opted for CS, I think it was a complicated relationship because right from the beginning you must have had something in mind that maybe I may not continue in computer science, I'll go to management. Was it like that, or you had a clarity during your IIT days that I will stick to CS?
No, I think I definitely had that clarity to be in CS. But I think what really shaped up in future was like having different options. One story I would tell you is, like I remember in my first year, so it was an intern. I mean, I didn't had an internship to be honest, and I was just at home, in this summer, and I was started trading in the stock market, like very intraday trading, and I kind of lost like 10,000 in one day, and that was big sum for me, at least for me, right, personally. And it was my dad's money, right? I mean, I didn't have any money then. But I think what really encouraged me that time is like instead of castigating me for making such a big loss, my father kind of motivated me. It's fine to like make a loss, but at least you are learning. Or I mean, I don't know what I learned that time, but I think over time, what it really helps you in, or it really helped me in getting that exposure and uh, that taking that risk in different things in life, not just what you are being studied in, and just venturing out differently. So I think that really helped, and I think over time uh, that helped me in taking those decisions to probably venture out of CS for a while, um, but at least taking that jump.
That's phenomenal. So it's about taking risk. So the best place to take risk is on with your own self. That means with your own career, because that can bring extraordinary outcomes, and that's what you believe in also. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, you want to add on this?
No, I think that's true. I think the biggest risk of life is, not taking risk at all.
Yeah, that's what you strongly believe in. So, but again, coming back in your IIT days, were you also aligned towards management? Like, did you have this in mind before getting your first computer science job? Did you have it in mind that I may pursue an MBA in future?
Mm, Not really, but I think I probably had a thought because you often see people who have done IIT and then probably IIM. In India, you see that, IIT, IIM, all these big names, people do value, or maybe they think the perception is high, I would say. Maybe it's not really matters. But so you definitely get to know or are exposed as, like, oh, you can probably do an MBA. But I was never too hard on it to that I want to do one day.
Uh, so when is the first book coming up? Because that's what people do. IIT,
Maybe,
IIM, and then a book. Okay,
yeah,
jokes
maybe.
apart. Jokes apart. So we have a question also here. There's a guy called Prithviraj Deshmukh, and he's asking, Sir, as a computer science engineer, which is the best branch to opt for in MBA? If you
MBA.
can understand, like he has a plan to pursue an MBA, uh, and which branch to opt for in MBA? Okay, maybe he's asking about whether to go for finance or marketing,
Yeah.
something like this.
So like as a CS, I don't really like. I mean, I have done personally like a general MBA from because I am generally offers a general degree. It's not whether it's related to finance or marketing, but you can definitely choose courses in your second year, which are more aligned with what you're interested. I chose personally finance because, as I mentioned, like I was exposed very initially to finance in some sense, and I really thought that that was also very close to maths compared to anything else. So uh, but it depends totally on your interest, and I would definitely say experiment it, take courses from every subject and try to find out what is really your calling.
So most of your subjects were related to finance or what?
Yeah, so in first year you get to you don't get to choose, honestly. You have subjects like you have courses from all different backgrounds, finance, marketing, even HR, right? And I think it's important to know everything. You That's why you go for an MBA, right? I mean, because you want to get the 10,000 feet of how you run a business, right? Not just finance but marketing and others, right? But in second year you can choose courses which you think that you were most comfortable in first year and you want to explore.
That's great. Okay, so coming back to your placement time, so did you have something in mind that I want to go in only engineering jobs, or you already, because I think in IIT Bombay, many consultancy firms also visit. I think even management firms visit, and the engineers, right from their placement times, they have an option of pursuing a non-technical job or maybe not core engineering job. So did you have this in mind, or were you pretty fine with what job comes in?
I was like when I was like starting for placements, my vision was just to get in a software engineering. I didn't thought of I want to get in consulting, although consulting companies do come, um, but I was, I think, perfectly aligned with it that I want to start with what I've read, what I've studied for 4 years, and I want to explore that. So that's why I chose to be in just core tech roles
Hmm.
only.
That's great, and that's why you finally landed up your first job in a startup. And I totally remember that in 2013, that's the time when you passed out. I
Yes.
think at that time, housing was the big name. Actually, it was all set to become the next Flipkart, and everybody was talking about housing because they had some very fancy UI, and they just revolutionized the whole realtor business. So, was that very fascinating for you also?
Kind of, yes. Like definitely remember housing being one of the poster boy of Indian startups, or at least the booming ones. And I was fortunate to be part of that, that rocket ship or that growth story, I would say, in those 2 years, because I could see housing rising from just being a rental place, like providing a rent marketplace, to buy land and a lot of many things. So in those 2 years, it was fun to be with smart people around, and very growth mindset. So those 2 years definitely added a lot of you know experience, like a uh, very good experience to me.
Okay, good experience. But what was your team like? What were you working on there? Like, what kind of technology
Yeah.
exposure did you got did you get there?
So it was a very core engineering role. I was a software engineer. I rose few ranks, and I think that's the good part about being in a startup, that you get to grow faster. I think in, let's say, 6, or let's say even a year, I could get a couple of promotions. So that was nice. And I think the technology is mostly around like core tech, using Amazon infrastructure like AWS. Um, and I specifically worked on the buy vertical, which is like creating that buy marketplace for housing.
Okay, cool. So you were enjoying your job. Actually, in the startup, you also grew very fast. But I have heard that like the growth that we get in startup, like in a very young age, you become senior engineers. It's very hard to ride on that because the other companies, they know that you don't have enough experience at this moment. Like even you got
Yeah,
4 promotions in 2 years, but the other company, you most likely can an enterprise will not acknowledge that. Is it true, or you can cash on that?
partially true. It depends. I think a lot of depends on luck also, right? If you are in a startup which has grown very fast and has got that recognition in the industry, you get that recognition also, because you're riding on that ship, and people do value if you are part of. Let's say Facebook was also a startup one day, like 10, 15 years ago, but now if you see people from there, you definitely value them because they have been there for so long. And so I think that's the part where luck also plays in. And Yeah, I think it's like it's a trade-off, I would say. Like going to a stable company but big company, you can grow slowly, or you can go to a startup, grow fast. Another thing I think it would help you build is just taking more risk and being more confident that you get to do more things, and you have exposed in a more wider sense.
So that's great. And till now, I feel like you did not say a single word that does not seem favorable or that gives an impression that you were not enjoying your job or anything. So you got a few promotions, you were enjoying your job, and you were pretty happy. Then what motivated you to think about an MBA? And definitely for going for an MBA or appearing for CAT, you must have to prepare also, right? Uh, some preparation. So it right after your first year in housing, you would have started thinking about pursuing an MBA. So what motivated you then?
Yeah, so I think the primary motivation was like having some background in, like, or at least some inclination to finance, or very early on. And I think just like when I was in housing, and as I said, I was in core engineering. I could see what housing is doing, but really not understand the business, the growth. And to really understand that, one probably needs to, I thought that it would be good that MBA would help me to get a breadth of knowledge about different topics, especially about business. So this could be, a foundation for, let's say one day I want to start my own startup, right? And I want to become an entrepreneur. So this would give me a good high level view of things, how things work, and would definitely add to me, right? And about, I think, preparation, um, I think I did probably a 1 month of preparation, but it was very intense. Usually people go for, like coaching classes. I rather just stick to just home. Like I would do mock test every day. Try to discipline myself in the sense like that I'm my own teacher, and try to just grade my mock test, and like basically just iterative loop for feedback. I think that really helped. So, but although it was a shorter period of time for practice, but I think that really paid off.
That's great. And anyways, you have said that being disciplined is one of your attributes, key attributes that has given you a lot of success. And it is actually a key takeaway for everybody because many people think that being disciplined is overrated. But I feel like being disciplined is underrated. So yeah, I totally understand that. So one of the person, Shivansh Raghuvanshi, in the chat box, he asked that did you also, even one person in your mind, did you also think about pursuing a master's in computer science? Like people just because of your interest in mathematics and you also enjoy computer science. So did you also consider that by any chance?
I did, but I think I was just stricken like. um I would say, like, I mean, I would probably uh, gave that exam for CAT, and I got an MBA. Like I am, and once you get that calling, let's say, from such a big institution, you are like confused in sense like, do you want to really pursue masters in CS outside, or if you're getting, a calling from one of the best institutes in India, would you want to do that? And definitely, like as I said, the motivation for me was to also not just get core into CS, but probably also think about few years down the line where if I feel like starting my own thing and being an entrepreneur, MBA might help. Uh, so I think that was my thinking at that time, and that's why although it was in my mind to be go for a CS major, but I didn't really took that jump.
That's great. And so finally, you left housing and left your engineering career and moved towards your IIM journey. So how was your IIM Ahmedabad experience like? Because definitely, again, while you are appearing for CAT, you had some vision in mind that IIM will give me this. It will add on this level of expertise in my personality. Was it the same experience, or was it something really different, really unanticipated? So tell us about it.
Um, it is what you generally expect, like out of an MBA, that it gives you a breadth of exposure, but not that depth, because in that short span of 2 years, you are learning very different things, but not really going core. And like CS, right? So you do a computer science degree for 4 years. Definitely, it's more intense than doing a 2-year degree in multiple things. So I think the expectation was very much met. It really gave me that high level view of understanding things, and understanding the world in general, like why this is important and why this not, and not just from only a technical or a rational point of view. You also understand like why rationality can also prevail and all those things, because you read these different cases in businesses what has happened, and you try to understand that. And I think if I try to compare IIT and IIM, both are very different schools. Both are very good in their own respect. In IIM, you get to meet very different kind of people who have come from different backgrounds, not just engineers, but commerce graduates, or could be even doctors or lawyers, architects. So you get that perspective of the different people around, and it really adds up to your knowledge and learnings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great, and that's why I think most of the IIMs also give weightage to the diversity that they are bringing in, and that is why you can get to meet people from different fields also. So one question and one curiosity I always had in mind. So if you look at the trends of the top B schools in the world, they have an average work ex of requirement of like 5 years sometimes. So the minimum work ex requirement is always 2 years, but the class profile is mostly like on an average 5 years is the work experience. And when you see Indian B schools, especially like the top IIMs, you see that most of the people are there are either 1 year experience or 2 year experience, or at max 3 years experience. So why is there a disparity in this sense?
Um, I think I mean I would even add that a lot of people just joined just after graduation, like they didn't even had 1 year of experience. Uh, so I think the disparity lies because in India there is that sense of urgency, or that maybe that pressure to like they think like oh, let me study right now and then I don't have to study for the next years coming. So like trying to front load things, maybe a thought which prevails more in India rather than US. Because like in my US experience, people are more comfortable with what they're doing, and they do take they go for higher education, but they are not really pressured to do it in the very early stage of their life. And I think that's the disparity is probably is there. And they are more risk taking in the sense they do want to take other venture out differently, rather than okay, if I'm not doing great in my job, let me do another degree. But personally I would recommend to at least have at least 2 years of experience before you do MBA. It definitely, you if you have some industry expertise, um, you can learn better, I would say, because there are a lot of these cases, and then the learning itself um, can be something where you if you had an experience you would understand better.
Hmm. I actually second that thought. Also considering MBA as a career option, so it's worth taking that advice. 5 years in my career already, and still thinking, am I good enough for an MBA? And you did it within 2 years, so that's commendable. And so moving on to our next question. So again, this is the second placement season in your life. Like after IIM, after IIT, now you are in IIM, and again, companies are coming to your doorsteps, giving you jobs, and also during your IIM time, you showed key interest in finance, and that is why I think you also opted for an internship in HSBC, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
So, what was that internship experience?
So it was an investment banking internship, and it was really intense. Like you have to probably work like 14 to 16 hours a day. I did around like 14, I think, um, and 6 days a week. So it's very intense. It's I think the good part was about learning about different businesses. So because like an investment banking is generally a one who has his clients who want to go for an IPO or do a merger and acquisition. So you get to know the internals of specifically related to finance of a company, and you also get some client exposure, because when you go to meet clients, you get to know how big leaders think, right? How the senior executives really take decisions. So those I think were the good parts, I would say, about my internship.
That's great, and I think it also aligns to your original interest about finance and everything. But
Yeah.
then you decided to cheat on it again. And was it because you got a job offer from New York? You decided to opt for McKinsey and did not opt for a financial firm. Like, what? Why did you make that career decision of not joining a financial company and joining a consultancy company? Was it a risk taking? What was it like? Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so I would not lie. I mean, anybody who is a MBA graduate and if he's getting an offer from McKinsey, especially in New York, I think it would be a foolish decision to not take it. I think, and I also probably just felt into that trap. I mean, like not trap, I would say, but it was a. So I would add to more on this because of my. So before placements, IIMs offer an exchange program where you can go to a foreign university and spend a semester. And I chose to go to the US to for an exchange program for 4 months. And I think that gave me an opening. As I was saying, like before IIT or IIM, I was mostly in India and I didn't knew much about the what lies outside India. Obviously, but it's you don't know until you get there, right? So this was an eye opening for me in the sense like I could feel the culture here. How is it different to be here? What would it probably feel like if I work here, right? Because I would talk to different people here, the students who have also come from different universities outside US and also in the US. So it was a very diverse experience and very enriching for me. And I felt that if I can get a job in the US, I would probably want to work here because I want to really feel the culture here. And definitely, it's like you get more money, but apart from that, I think just getting that exposure was very cool. And I think I was in love with that, and I thought like if I get that offer, I would want to join, and definitely a great company. More on that later.
More on that later. But definitely, so you got an American dream after you reached America. Is it like that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So which university was it, by the
So
way?
this was University of North Carolina, and the business
Oh,
school is called Keenan Flagler Business School.
that's great. So finally, you took the consultancy job at McKinsey. But before that, I would like to ask that many people want to ask. Trust me, what do consultants really do? Because um, there are crazy ideas floating around in the non-consultancy space where people think that they just make slides or they just do solve problems in a very trivial way and charge extensively for it. A lot of negative notions are spreading around. So just clear that out. Like, what do consultants really do?
Yeah. So that was my own thought, before joining McKinsey or a consulting firm. I think at a high level, what consultants do is like problem solving with clients. So, and you get to be a thought partner with senior leadership. So if you see, like, let's say if you are a senior executive in a company, right? You have your own team, below you to execute your plan and for the coming year. But you definitely want an external perspective, and this is where consultants really come in because you can then now rent some smart people, let's say, and then they can advise you externally, not your own team. And this helps in main two things. One is just de-risking the projects, right? Because now you have got multiple perspectives, you have diversified your decision making by bringing in external people. So that's one. And second is, I think, the outcome, right? I mean, you are definitely going in through, um, which actually adds in more for the first point only, that let's say the outcome is really, is not that good as what you expected. So, but you know that you have taken the right decision because you have asked multiple people behind it, right? And I think that de-risking is the biggest advantage, or that value proposition for a consultant.
That's great. But I think also it takes a lot of problem solving to get into
Yeah.
a consultant shoe because if when I see, right, it always takes a lot of effort to understand the problem at first. Even if we are even if we are handed over a new project in software engineering space, also you
Mhm.
take some time to understand everything and then come up with a solution. And for
Yeah,
a consultant, they have to get into somebody else's shoe
yeah.
and deliver the solution that is smarter than the solution that they can think of. So it sounds very unreal sometimes.
It is sometimes unreal, but I think so. It's not really short period of time. Sometimes the engagements can last for 6 months to a year. So we do spend time, significant amount of time in understanding the problem. But yeah, it could be less compared to what the world thinks, but definitely we put in the time to understand yeah, and analyze the situation.
That's great. Okay, somebody in the chat box asked about your McKinsey offer. So, did you get this offer on campus or did you apply for it off campus?
Yeah, so I actually applied for outside campus. So one thing I would add is, like when you are in a business school, it's very competitive to get through the placements because there's your batch is very big, like 300, 400 people, and there are very few coveted jobs that everyone would want to, right? I mean, it's not that they are the best, but like that's how the market is, right? Like I mean, people are want to go into the best farms uh, as what is the perception is, right? So I thought like, yeah, this would be a problem for me also. And when I came to the US, I thought the only way I can mitigate this risk is probably start looking off campus, and you can do that also, right? I mean, like anyone can do that, but taking that risk or thinking about it ahead would, I think, would be the best thing to do. So I did that differently, I think, compared to my peers, and that really paid off. Although I got an offer, I mean, like from McKinsey, just a month before placement. So it was really, nail biting. I didn't know that I would get it, but I think just I kept, just stayed in the process, and I got through.
That's amazing. So, you did you also get an offer from IIM-A? Like not like the companies that are visiting on campus, did you also get an offer from them, or did you opted for not sitting for placements at all?
I opted out. So just a day before placements, I opted out.
That's great. And did somebody refer you, or it's like completely organic applying?
So it's very organic. So in US, it's like there is no placement as such. You don't go through placement. There is definitely a career fair, which is organized by the university, but there is no proper strict placement that you would be ensured to get a job. That is, I don't think the case is here. And so what people usually do is they like the LinkedIn, I think, the one of the best platforms to reach out to people. So you can reach out to your own alumni, from your graduation or from IIM, and definitely people are seeking to hire people at any point in time. And if you get a good match, that's how you can land up a good job. So that's what I did. I would have cold emailed, a lot of like maybe like 100 people, and out of that I got one opportunity, which I converted. So I think it's a numbers game, but you have to, just stick to just applying, I think.
Okay, that's great. So finally, you entered into the United States, maybe on an H-1B visa, I
Yes.
assume. So now you were free to explore the country and step into new companies and even new domains. That is your favorite pastime to try and experiment with your career. So why did you not follow your calling for finance? And again, after your McKinsey experience, you thought of homecoming to the software engineering. Why did that happen?
Um, so I think one thing I would, add, like as you was asking, what does consultant do? So I think we definitely solve the problem, but there is that lack of ownership, I would say. Like you are solving a problem for someone else. You are not solving your own problem. Or is it not like you are building a product?
Mm,
You are, and that's what, the perception is, like you make slides, because that's what, like that's the output, right? It's not a product, or something you can see, or it's like very tangible, like a laptop, right? or even like say what Apple makes, right? You can see what they make. It's not just slides. So I think that was like when I 1 year into consulting, or few months there, I started realizing that definitely I'm adding value with my work, but not really making something or creating something. And funny thing, like so when you get into McKinsey, we have a starting program where you go for like a training, right? And you have this Myers-Briggs test where it's about a personality test. You get to choose, or you get to know what you are really are passionate about. Let's say, so mine was INTJ, and which is kind of similar is to an architect. So I think that's what I realized. In some sense, okay, I really like to make things, or it's not just or create things. It's not just I want to add value just by providing recommendations to clients. And I think that's when I realized that software engineering was one way to make things, even writing code, right? Because when you're writing a code, you can build software, and which can also add value to people, and which like the big tech firms are already doing, right? So in some way, so that's when I realized that I want to get into a product, or basically back into software engineering, that would help me realize that interest or passion.
That's great. But here I have another doubt. So now, 4 years into your career already, I think 4 or 5 years, and now you have the software engineering experience, you have an MBA, you have consultancy experience, and it's a pure combination to make a perfect product manager. Why did you not think about that? Why did you not think about product management?
I did, but I think there are some nuances about US in general. Is like the STEM degrees are valued more, to be very honest, right? And compared to management degrees, or even like because a management or like MBA is a very local, you know, a local degree compared to a STEM degree. So I think like when I was in McKinsey, I like when if I wanted to make a shift, it was more easier for me to get into software engineering compared to a management role. I would not say it's hard or it's difficult or you can't do it, but I think more easier was I think getting into software engineering. So I thought this could be a ladder, way into the future. Let's say if I can do software engineering and slowly I can rise up ranks to become product manager, because when you are in a big company, or you can keep moving internally to like that's how you can someday you can become a CEO also, starting as a software engineer one day. You never know, but my point was like let me just get the ladder, and then I can move into management also.
Oh, so are you putting it on record that Hemant Gangolia will be in product management very soon, and in our next video, you will be a product manager at XYZ Enterprise? Is it?
I don't know. Let's see.
Okay. So moving on, so you came back to software engineering. You were enjoying your job. I hope you were enjoying your job at Walmart. Again, how was the experience? Did you, again, because for the first time you were working in an enterprise as a software engineer, how different was it compared to a software experience?
So can you repeat the question? I think I broke.
So now you're a software engineer in Walmart, and this is the first time in your career you are working as a software engineer in an enterprise.
Yeah.
Before that, you were in a startup. So
Hmm.
how different was it, like your enterprise experience and startup experience?
Yeah, I think it was very different in the sense. Well, although I would say that although I did work for Walmart, but I was working for a subsidiary which was also a kind of a startup. But to elaborate more on the an enterprise and a startup, I would say the key part is like the navigation, because in a big company you learn to navigate uh, better than a startup, because in a startup you have a small team, let's say a team of 10 people, and even the whole technology team could be limited to, let's say, 50 or 100 people, or could be more, but let's say a smaller number compared to a big company, let's say a FANG or Walmart. So you understand how to navigate things, how to become a citizen of that big enterprise. That's a job in itself, I would say. How do you become a better citizen, in a big
Yeah.
company. So uh, that's I think the key difference, and definitely the impact is much higher. Although you do small things, but that can impact into multiple facets by reaching out to a larger audience compared to a small company.
Yeah, my personal experience, I would summarize it in like this. So, in a startup, you are the one who creates the culture, huh?
Yeah,
And in an enterprise, you are the one who follows the culture. You try to adapt to the culture all the time. In
yeah,
startup, you have so much ownership that you are actually the flag bearer of the culture itself.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
No, I
So,
would agree,
mhm.
because that's what I mentioned. Like you want to become a citizen, like law-abiding citizen. Like delve into that culture which is already there.
Yeah. So just now you mentioned something related to Fang. So did that thing stuck in your mind? Like, uh, did you always aspire to be a Fang engineer, or always try to for this big enterprise that are reputed all over the world, or is it just in the job for you? Like, how did you choose the Facebook opportunity?
Mhm. Like I think like any software engineer out of college, one would always aspire, to work in these big companies. Um, and I also had that, kind of aspiration. And when I felt that I am very close to getting one, I took that jump and I interviewed like, multiple of these big tech companies. Um, and I think the one thing or the big motivation was for me, apart from that aspiration, was to just impact. I think like like because everywhere you hear like these few big companies are making these good products that can reach billions of users all over the world, not just US, any part of the world, right? And I think that was the idea, to work on a product which is outreaching so many people.
That's great. And so, Facebook engineering point of view, everybody knows that it makes great products that can impact billions of people. But you also talked about culture that because Facebook is an enterprise. So, what kind of culture do they have at Facebook? How different is it? How did Facebook become so big? Like, is it something special about their culture? Can you just tell us about it?
Yeah, so I've been here for 3 months, and I think it definitely has a positive experience for me. I think what I can't really comment about other companies, but I think what probably has made Facebook so successful uh, is just fast iteration. So I see everything is here focused on execution. Like we really believe that failing is fine. One of the I think values of Facebook is like being bold, which basically means being taking risk. So it is like it is fine to do mistakes. If it's fine to launch a product which is how big, but uh, keep doing it and you will get feedback. We basically run experiments, right? Like when we launch a product, we experiment to or roll out to a very few a group of people, and then we start increasing the rollout as we see the product is getting more stable and getting more accepted. So I think that fast iterations and getting that feedback very soon, and improving on it, I think that has been I think the Facebook's main core uh, value of just being more successful.
Yeah, I've just heard about it. That move fast and break the things. Is it?
Yeah.
This is the uh, core tagline of Facebook engineers. So we are coming towards the end of our chat, but I have a very important question. So till now we talked about your transitions from being an engineer to again banker, consultant, then again engineer. So tell us, who are the people who should think about this? Like, how does one realizes that they want to make a transition? Is it a different breed of experimenters, or does a normal engineer? How does how does one find their calling about changing the job or changing the role, and realize that they want to move forward in a different vertical now?
Mm. So I think a lot of depends on your own personal situation. Like I think, fortunately, I've been I've been part of these different good institutes that has definitely added to, as a risk mitigation factor. Let's say, whenever you take a risk, that you can either lose or you can win, let's say, right? So you don't want to lose big. I think that's the idea, right? And that's what people really are fear for, right? I mean, okay, if I change a job, what do I stand to lose, right? If it is something big, then yeah, you decide, okay, I think it's not worth the risk. So it's like understanding that trade-off, like what do you stand to lose and what do you stand to gain. So I think one has to be first of all aware of who you are and what you really like, right? And start taking some baby steps towards it. So I would say that let's say about, for example, stock market. Let's say a lot of people could be interested, but you don't want to take a jump directly into it because you think that you will make big money. But I think the idea would be to just start small, maybe trade, when you have time, and then slowly build over it. So idea is like just build a hobby, because hobby is something that you are really passionate about. You don't do it for money, right? A hobby is something you like doing it because you are inherently passionate about it. So pursue something as a hobby and build it over time, and see if really it's something that you can take a jump into. And I think that's how a lot of, let's say, entrepreneurs work for, right? I mean, they start doing things out of their office, if they think they have time, make it a hobby first, and then when you really have that guts to just jump in and just do it with with your whole uh, with your whole self.
Uh, that's great. So again, Hemant, I wanted to ask one final piece of advice for the kids out there, like the young minds who are thinking about this risk medication and big things, that because everybody is not from IIT, IIM, but everybody has their own dreams. So
Mhm.
tell us how can one follow them, and what is your piece of advice for them?
Yeah, to be honest, like it would be very early and young of me myself to give advice, but I think what has personally worked for me is like, I would say three things. Just first, as I mentioned throughout our talk, which is like taking risk. I think take risk. It's okay to fail, and the life is too big. Like let's say you are 20 or 30-year old, and remember, like when you were a kid, you were in school, and you were probably also you went to college, and you had so many subjects, right? You had languages, physics, chemistry, maths, commerce, arts, whatnot, right? And you experimented, right, in those 10 to 20. And what really happened in 20 to 30 is like that inherent pressure to do something or stick to something. So the I think the idea is like you don't have to. You can keep experimenting in a different, in a smaller scale, but just keep doing it, right? Because life is big. It's like, let's say you want to live till 60, like you will live till 60, and so you have so many years ahead. It's okay to take risk and fail. It's okay to slow down. I think that's the basic idea. And I think the second would be, just being consistent and committed to what you like and passionate about. A lot of people, I would say, they like something, but they probably don't pursue it. Either they don't have time or you procrastinate. But I think just being consistent every day, or every month, every week, just try to build a rule, or just more disciplined. I think you would start seeing results. I'm sure, like um, in um, in short term, you don't see anything. You think, oh, I've been doing something for few days or a few months, but I can't really see the output. And I think that's true, right? I mean, you don't get to see anything at least few years. At least big things are not made in in a small time. And I think that's just my third piece of advice is like just focus on long term impact. These big things take time, so just keep doing.
Yeah, that's an amazing piece of advice. I would have uh, added on this, but I again have another question. So we talked about transitions and taking risk, and you were very humble about it. But I also want to ask, did you also have plan Bs in your mind always when you were making transition? And what is the value of a plan B? That means a contingency plan. When somebody is making transition or somebody is taking a risk, do they also think about plan B, or thinking about plan B can make your resolve weaker. So what is your opinion on that?
Um, like if I reflect back, I don't remember having plan B as such, or like making, oh, this is my plan and this is my plan B. But I think what is your probably a plan B is your status quo, because let's say you are already working for something that is your status quo. So that could be your plan B, or could be plan A, and then what you are trying to shift into could be your plan A. So your plan B is always what is your status quo, right? So uh, and I would not recommend having too many paths at one time. Just have two, either plan A or plan B, and plan B can always be your status quo, right? What you're already
So
doing
I,
is just keep doing
yeah.
it.
So either go in a straight line or just diverge from that. Not
Yeah,
like this
3 or 4, yeah.
3 to 4. I totally understand. So let's open the floor for audience to ask some questions. Hey, Carol, I'm not aware. Do we allow the people to open their mic to ask the questions, or how do we take the questions? Can you just take it forward for a Q&A, small Q&A from the audience side?
Yeah, sure. At this stage, if anyone has any questions now, please feel free to unmute yourself, and you can just directly interact with the speaker.
Hello, Hemant.
Hey,
I
hi,
will.
Dikshita. Hemant will directly respond to you.
Yeah. While Hemant, when you were switching or transitioning from one career path to the other career path, so did you evaluate, or what was your basis of switching? Like, did you have like something like a self evaluation thing, and then what was that thing that drove you to transition from one thing to the other?
Yeah. So I would rephrase on, like being more aware. I think like whenever you are in a status quo, you have to evaluate, whether what you are doing is making really happy, and if not, then what else would you make you happy? And you can always reflect back and see your past and see, okay, what in the past has made you happy. So for me, let's say when I was in consulting, I would feel that when I was a software engineer, I would love to make things, create products or write code. So that was, I think, is a key step inside your mind, where you are thinking of a switch or at least transitioning over time. And slowly over time, you vet that thinking that, okay, yeah, really that's what makes me happy, and probably that's where I will be more successful. So I think that's the basic idea. So being more aware, I think that should be the first step.
Okay, thanks for that. And one more thing. So, as Amit ended before, like ending the chat, he mentioned about the planning thing and everything. So, plan A and plan B, which you were talking about.
Hmm.
So how long should your plans be? Like, should you have like a 5 year plan or a year plan or a 6 month plan? And looking at the current COVID situation, it's almost been like for us people who are just starting out in our career, it's been like 3 months plan is also very doubtful for us.
Yeah. So I would say, think of long term, because COVID, if you remember, like in March, it was just it was something like which we never understood. Like, I mean, even now we don't, but definitely life was much more, short term at that time. And now we have at least tried to, we have understood how to live with it. Whether we can, I mean, whether we can get infected or not, that's a different thing. But I think focusing on long term is the big idea. Like and thinking about, like, 5 year plans. I never made any 5 year plans as such. But I think what I made, try to just ensure is like, try to be happy with what I'm doing, and if I'm not, then looking, for something which I would be, and slowly building over time. So let's say a few months plan, like 6 months to 2 years, that should be fine. But I think a 5 year plan is just to be more comfortable with what you are doing. Uh,
Thank you for your insight.
Could I ask a question?
Sure, Vishal, go ahead. Vishal, you are on mute.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, sorry, did I? Okay, I'll just repeat my question. So you were speaking that you went to North Carolina for an exchange program and for 6 months, and you networked there in the States.
Hmm.
And however, you got through LinkedIn and through your batchmates, you got through McKinsey. And my question is more specific to the visa issue. So after you did get through McKinsey, you needed an H-1B to work there. But the H-1B filing happens in March and acceptance happens in October. So was McKinsey, how did it work out for you? Did they wait for you for that long to join?
Yeah, that's a good point. So one thing which I probably didn't mention is I had an H1B from an offer I got during when I was in housing. So when I was in housing, I got an offer from a startup in San Francisco, but for some reasons, it didn't work out. But I did get a visa, and what I did is like when I was networking in the US, I got an offer. I used that visa to transfer to McKinsey. That's why it was a simple and easy process and didn't take much time.
But is this visa kind of delayable? Like, can you delay it 2, 3 years like this?
Yeah, you can, as long as you have not spent time working on it, you can. And you can change as many employers you want on an H1B generally.
Oh wow! So that was you were fortunate and lucky. Like it wasn't planned.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of things I have been lucky on, in my life.
My last question would be for people who don't have an active H-1B, can they
Mhm.
still try for American firms, get a job, and convince them to wait for 6 months?
I think it totally depends. I think generally you have to make a case where they think you are so important enough to get you there. But it all depends on you and the conversation you have with the company. But it is definitely possible. Very few people do it. I would not say I know many people, but it's definitely doable. But it's worth taking a shot if you are not very much invested. I mean, like, don't invest too much yourself in it that you think you would lose out. But definitely do a try.
Okay, I have a few tangential questions. Could you just send your email ID over? I could just ask it to you later on.
Yeah, I think the team can share later.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks.
Maybe Visaj, a better way would be connecting on LinkedIn and communicating to him directly, because
Okay.
Yeah.
email ID is maybe a bit next level. So
Oh,
I
really?
Yeah.
will
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks.
I will take a few questions from the chat, and we will keep it a bit short and quick. So one question is coming from Raghav Sethi, and he's saying, did you ever consider going into quant developer roles, combining both your finance and programming skills?
Yeah, I think I did. At one point of time, I like when I was thinking about software engineering, I was also thinking about quant. But I think, as I would say, it was much easier to get into software engineering compared to being a quant. So, or at least let's say just be in the US. I think, and overall, I felt like software engineering would probably make more sense to me. Being in big firms and trying to understand how they work and probably add to me later in life of making something on my own.
Okay, great answer, Hemant. So we'll take one more question. It says at the rate Hemant is from Sahil, and he's asking, was there any hesitation or consideration in your mind when deciding to pursue MBA and leaving your job? For example, the growth you might be giving up in the current field or financial aspect, or was your decision purely driven by a desire to learn about management?
Hmm. Um, so I think the idea is to not go by what people might think growth is for you, or what general the growth could be. You have to define your own growth, and if you think that being in a place where if you're not happy, or you think that you can do better because you are more passionate about something else, it is okay to slow down or change gears as required. So I didn't. I definitely, there is that part when you are in a company, you think that, oh, you can become your boss someday, or like reach that higher level. But I think the question to evaluate it: do you want to become that? First is that, rather than, oh, I want to be the boss or something. So I think being aware of that, I think, is more important than the growth. And that's, at least personally, that's what I felt. So I chose to change rather than grow.
Uh, Again, a great answer. And we will take one last question from Sabya Sachi. And she's asking, how did you prepare for tech company after such a gap of MBA and a consulting firm? So I think she's asking, like, how did you brush up your coding skills again? And like, because for 4 years, I don't think you wrote a single line of code. And then again, getting back to the shoes of a software engineer. So how did you manage to do that?
Yeah. So I think one, I would say, just I was always interested in maths, and also, although it kind of, I had to dust off, all my knowledge from, like the 4 years behind, but it was still worth it, and I really liked doing it. I think that's the one part, right? When I was aware that I like coding, I could learn it whether for an interview or for making something. So when you have that drive to love something, or like be passionate about, you will find a way to to do it. And I think that's what I did. Like, it took me some while to just even brush up the basic coding questions, but I think once I got it, got into the groove, I got it quickly. But I did prepare for it extensively. I don't think it was as easy as it was back then, but definitely it took some time.
So, hey, Hemant, it was really nice talking to you. And I think the 50 odd people that joined us for this conversation really got something valuable out of it. And in the end, guys, I want to say that I will be dropping some of the social media links from Hemant and myself. My name is Amit, and the star of the evening you already know. So we'll dropping our social media links. Also follow the Undistancing Project, and keep coming up for the next sessions. And definitely leave your feedback in the link that Carol has shared in the chat. And over to you, Carol.